Hey, my name is Jurline. I am 71 years old. I'm originally from Chicago, but I probably lived in a lot of parts of the United States because I was married to a Marine. I ended up here in California because I followed my grandmother who relocated from Chicago. So technically, I'm a Californian now, but in my heart, I'm a Midwesterner. I am outgoing, I am passionate, and I am funny. I think people is going to always say that about me. Outgoing, passionate, and I'm comical. I should have been a comedian, actually. Honestly, I am a social worker professionally. I have a master's in social work. So I do a lot of education, mental health counseling, mental health awareness. But my funnest job is what I have now. I am a public health advisor working for the CDC. The first thing that got my attention is, number one, I'm postmenopausal. So being postmenopausal, you are not to see any blood, because I've always been so in tune with my body, in tune with what was happening. That drop, and it was a drop. So I just like to emphasize, it might not necessarily be a flood. It could be something, it's a couple of drops of blood. But if you postmenopausal, that's a flag. So for me, this is literally how it went. Wednesday, I saw a drop. I said, okay. Thursday was a little bit more heavier. Friday, I was in my doctor's office. So I always like to talk about, it's so important not to minimize that flag there, especially if you postmenopausal. So I took control. I made the doctor's appointment to find out why, at this point in the stage, why I have never seen any type of blood since I started menopause. So I made an appointment with my general practitioner. So this is how my diagnosis started with me. First seeing the GP, then getting a referral to the gynecologist. He did the biopsy. He was the person. And I knew at 7:30 in the morning when I get a call from the doctor's office, it is not good news. The clinic wasn't even open yet. So I immediately said, this is endometrial. And then I got a chance to talk to him. And it's so important that you establish that relationship right away. These relationships, you see how they go from one to another. And that can be confusing. So I'm happy that I can explain that this is natural. So what he told me that I'll never forget, he said, I'm going to recommend you to the best oncologist in Long Beach. And that was so comforting, because then he was the person who made another referral. And that's when I found out that I had endometrial cancer from that biopsy and that doctor. And when I got the news, it's kind of, I already felt it in my heart that that's what it was. And I wasn't so fearful because of the way it was explained to me. And then I was going to go see the oncologist. So it was like everybody was telling me the steps along the way. First thing that went through my mind, because I am a single mom, grandma, and it's just my daughter and myself, I did not want to tell her. That was the first thing that went through my mind, having to tell my daughter that I had cancer. But I do remember, for me, that was the most stressful part of it all, because I knew that was going to be an emotional reaction. But I reassured her that with me going to the doctor so early, and I didn't have any pain at all, and I'm fairly healthy, I said, I'm going to beat this. It's going to be okay. But that was the first thing I thought about, was having to tell my family. So one thing about it, I first let her know, because she's also a female, that this abnormal bleeding wasn't a good sign. So she already knew that we were going to find out either it's cancer or not. So she already knew that it was going to be one or the other. So she knew that when the doctor, and really ironically, he was the same physician assistant that delivered one of my grandchildren. So he kind of already knew her, and then he got a chance to meet me. So it was kind of like easier. It was very hard for me. It was very sad because I was thinking about mortality. And when you talk to your kids about that, it's a possibility because I hadn't even went to see the oncologist yet. So it was just like a great unknown. So my approach has been the way I approach everything in life. I always take it from the positive because that way I have more control because I'm going in from the positive. So if it's something else that might not be as negative that's gonna happen, I'm still coming in there thinking, I got this. And that's the way I felt. I don't even remember which stage it was until I was way into the treatment. And then actually when I went to his office, and I went quite quickly, I was at stage 4 when I went in. So if I hadn't went in when I did, I might not be here talking to you. So for me, that part right there, that was pretty scary. I'm happy that I didn't really know it at the beginning, that some kind of way I must have just blocked it out of my mind. Because if I would have known I was stage 4 going in, I would have been a total wreck. Because that's how I act. That's how I respond to, what? I went right away, I'm dying. So that's another reason why it's so important to have somebody taking notes for you, because you'll miss it. I missed that stage until we were way down the line in my treatment, and he was like, Jurline, based on us taking the biopsy, then we looked at the material, and now you have to have chemotherapy. That's when I almost fell off those tables that we sit on. Now that's the time when I almost lost it, because I'm thinking I got in early, right? I'm a good girl. I got in right, and I met everybody. Chemo took me for a loop. I wasn't anticipating I was going to need anything beyond a hysterectomy. I think that's really important that when you finally do go see the oncologist, don't go by yourself. Take an advocate. So if you can just get a friend or somebody that you trust to go with you, if they don't do anything but sit in the background. I know with COVID and everything, it might change, but that was also a strength that I had, that she could hear what was going to be the treatment plan, and that really helped the whole kind of way of me framing what was going to happen as well. I think it's important to know when you're going in there talking to that doctor, you want to know what the outcome's going to be. What's this end result? If I have a history, will that help me? Don't just say, okay. You want to know, in your case, it might be a different way. You might have some type of bleeding problem. Everybody is different. I want to make sure I emphasize that. Every experience is going to be different. Every body type is different. Every treatment type is different. But the one thing that's constant is that you are driving the train. You're a part of the team. I think for me, they become family. They become your lifeline. These are people who know you the way nobody else knows you. My team was a treatment team that I could talk about my mental health. And that's really important, and I'd like to add as well. For me, it was really important that I told them that I was struggling, that I did have a diagnosis of anxiety and depression, and I wanted them to know that this is going to raise it. And they were like, that's understandable. We do. So we're going to treat that along with your cancer. So don't think you're going to have to be out here by yourself that for me was important. So when I say emotional, I still have contact with my oncology nurse because she turned into a coach. And she and I met again, and he and I, it's the whole office is going to be emotional because I started a journey here, and I'm going to be fortunate to walk out of that door. And for me, because of what they did for me and educating me and preparing me and keeping me well, it's going to be very, very emotional when we say goodbye. That was the most depressing part of my journey, because unfortunately in the African American community, there's not so many resources. And for me, I felt that people should have known that I needed help. And I didn't feel comfortable asking for help because I got cancer. So it seems to me, you should know I can't cook. You should know I can't shop. So for me, that was more depressing than anything because I don't feel like I had the social support that I needed. And asking was hard because I felt like you should know. So it just depends on where you're at. It's almost more depressing if you say, hey, I need to go this place, and that person said they can't do it. And I've always been so independent. So for me, that was very difficult to really just reach out. Fortunately, Facebook is a good thing. I was in a neighborhood Facebook group, and I just put it out there. So I just want people to know, don't be ashamed if you're in a group or you're in your church. Don't be ashamed to just say, look, could somebody bring in water for me? Or can we do like a food? I've read in certain like journals and books where somebody frees food and this person brings salads on that day. That would have made a vast difference. And it brings a great deal of sadness, even as I talk to you now, because that really stymied my ability to feel good about myself. Because I felt like, I'm such a giver. So where are you? And it really, really did. It's probably why I do so much of this. Because I know what it feels like to say, oh, man, I'm so tired today. I just wished I didn't have to do this. Why can't somebody know I haven't had anything to eat? So it's almost like when you tell people you have cancer, it's almost like leprosy. I really want to talk about that piece of the isolation because you got cancer. It's almost like you telling them that it's something they can catch. That's the way I felt. I felt like you guys are not coming over, you're not visiting. You can't catch it. So the people that really did come by, just a visit, the people that came to visit, those are the people that I still hold dear in my heart. They would just come by and just visit. They didn't even need to bring me anything. Just the fact that they would sit there with me and talk or bring a card or a gift. Not that my family didn't care, but first of all, I'm not in my community. My family live in the Midwest. I'm in California. So I don't think they even had a clue about what I needed. And what I didn't need was a visit that was gonna make me have to pick people up from the airport and make sure they get to eat and drive them around because the people who want to come are needy. And it's okay to say to them, what is your plan? What are you gonna, because I can't meet you at the airport. And it just raised my anxiety level. And then for example, my family member was like, I already bought the ticket and I'm gonna surprise you. I said, well, honey, you're gonna have to cancel it because I don't want you to come. And then that created harsh feelings. So around social support, I almost think you have to start thinking about, even if you have to write down what you need. And let them know what I would need you to do if you're going to come out is to do some grocery shopping, help me around the house, do some gardening, maybe just sit around and just sit on the porch and we just talk. Because right now I'm not that same person. I'm a cancer patient now. And I think they need some self-education as well. And we can't give it to them because we're trying to we're fighting for our lives. So we simply just cannot always give it. And I really think that it's difficult, especially in the African American community, because there's so many things that everybody's bogged down with that they think just coming to see you from out of town would be enough. And it really isn't, because it's a burden. Yes. One of the things that has really been troubling, although I didn't experience the disparity around medical treatment, especially endometrial cancer, that really impact the ability to really recover. A lot of the women came together for the first time to meet, and their experience was so different from what I experienced. For the most part, no one listened. The symptomology was minimized, but I do know in the African American community that is a vast problem around disparities, just in general, but really around endometrial cancer, because nobody talks about it. We haven't heard it in our community, and when we first hear it, we're hearing it from a medical professional who has one goal, and that's to just treat you and get you down the road. We have to, as a community of professionals, doctors, patients, survivors, we really do have to talk about it, because we're losing, these are mothers, sisters, daughters, and it's almost like it's a silent disease. You don't even hear about it. You don't even hear about it when the people pass away from it. So I think that disparity right there is the fact that it's not being addressed from a cultural standpoint, period, the end. Well, the first thing I would tell them is it's going to help you with your healing, because you're going to take focus off of your healing, and it's going to help you help someone else. Almost like that pay it forward kind of a feeling. And another reason you would want to get involved is because there's a need, and you will be filling in an important need, and you will also be joining a sisterhood, because that's what we are now. And you will be able to help your community, because we live all over the country. So, and let's say in Georgia or wherever you're at, you can raise awareness right there. So there's power in numbers. You'll be making a difference. You're needed. We're all in this together. We might look different. We might have different experiences, but your voice will be heard. In addition to your voice being heard, it's going to also encourage you to be able to stand up for your own self and say no to a lot of things you used to say yes. You're going to feel empowered. And if I can say anything else about volunteering across the board, it's the best kind of self-care there is. Because this is one time you're doing something for somebody else that's going to make you feel better in the long run. I wouldn't do it any other way, and I would encourage at any stage, once you get through your treatment, just getting involved. It doesn't mean you have to go out and speak like I do. You can just maybe go to your church. Like I was fortunate enough to talk at church doing cancer awareness. So it's just that you're making a difference. Your voice is making a difference. And when you see somebody come back to you and say, "Oh, I'm so glad that you told me about that," then it's going to make you feel good if you're having a bad day. Because we're going to have some good and bad days as survivors. But I have never had a bad day when I'm talking to somebody about there's a better way. when I think about my future, where I'm at right now, I'm at the best part of my life. I really think that I'm beginning to see my dreams realized. And I think that cancer, although it sounds weird, I think cancer is what really made me shoot for my dreams, because it's not, you face your mortality for the first time when you get that cancer diagnosis. I'm excited about my future. My only fears that I have is that we won't be able to get the message out to as many people if we like. But in terms of my life, I'm really excited. This is probably the best part of my life. This is the best season of my life, because some of the things I always wanted to do, I'm doing them now. And I'm thankful as an advocate, I can show others that you can keep dreaming.